Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast, where we get industry leaders sharing their ideas, philosophies on how to make their businesses grow faster and how to get their employees to be better, stronger, faster. And today, I'm joined by Isaac Verge. He is the head honcho at the Verge real estate team. Isaac, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So this is going to be an interesting conversation. When did you, because the reason it's going to be interesting is, you went from like just starting out in real estate and building a team that's doing exceptionally well. And during that journey, there's lots of lessons there. So we can kind of deconstruct that and get those epiphanies and share them with our listeners and our viewers. So tell us when you started into the real estate business and what crazy idea led you to be a realtor.
Okay. So around 2007, I was in another role with another company. Wasn't the perfect, lifetime fit for me. And so my wife and I made the decision to sell the house we were in and go into a duplex so that we could essentially live at a reduced cost, and that would allow us to put her into school to pursue a career as a nurse, and then I would figure out what I was doing. And through the process, we hired an excellent agent who gave great advice and had a lot of little unexpected sort of extras along the way that would have expected from anyone. And it was just such a high-level, positive experience that I got interested. I'd previously been interested in real estate. Obviously, if you own property, you pay attention. But and he sort of planted the seeds of what could be a really cool way to both grow some investment property plans for the future, but also to get into a world where your whole success is tied to your client's success. So. Very rewarding sort of a role. And so he planted the seed. So started the courses shortly after that. I took my time and officially started as a realtor in 2009, September.
Excellent.
And ended up mentoring under the agent that had kind of planted those seeds. And it's obviously been quite a journey since then. Starting out as green and solo and all of that to being a part of the amazing group that I'm a part of now.
Excellent. So as you started on this journey, there's ups and downs. Tell us about your first win where you realized, okay, this is for me. I've helped somebody get a house. Was it the first house you sold, or was it a little later on where you kind of felt like I found my calling?
So I was very fortunate because I was able to find clients, right out of the gate. My previous role, it was a management position. And so when I was in that role, I really made a conscious effort to try and create the best possible work environment for my staff. And so my very first client, I was licensed for, a day or two or three. I made the announcement on social media and all that. And she said, "Hey, I loved working for you. I'd love to work with you. I know you're new, but I'm new too.
Nice.
So we'll figure this thing out together." And I just feel like I was so blessed to have somebody put their trust in me, not necessarily in my experience, but knowing that we would figure it out. And so we were able to started in beginning of September. We were able to get them into a property in mid-October. So it didn't take long for me to hit the ground running. So I would consider that more of a success, yes, but more of a blessing that somebody
Nice.
took the chance on me.
So how many transactions did you do in the first year?
First year, 53.
Which is like freaking awesome, right? Because most realtors end up doing less than 10. So 53 is huge. What do you think that came from? Was it like you had a sales mindset, or you just kind of opened yourself up and things started kind of flowing your way?
I Again, I think for me it was a lot of it was network, but it was probably only about a third of the clients I helped that were clients that I knew from a past life, so to speak. And the rest would have just been, being on top of things. You get a call, you return it immediately. I definitely put in the time. I definitely was very responsive, tried to lead with value always. And from the beginning, this isn't about sales for me at all. It's about helping people get what they want. And there is
Nice.
a sale attached to that. But if somebody wants to buy and your focus is on service and on helping them make the right choice, and being a party to that, I think the sales just sort of happen. That's sort of the byproduct of service.
I'm going to throw out a hypothesis and kind of give me a take on it. And if it sounds good, go with it. If it sounds like bullshit, please say so.
For sure.
So I think intent is really important when we're doing something. And some people, some realtors, talk about customer service and making sure the customer gets what they want, but their intent is to make a sale. And it sounds like your intent is to make sure that they get exactly what they need in the way that they need it, and the byproduct is the sale. A, do you think that's a true statement? And how important do you think intent is to when you actually go to do an activity?
Well, I think, I would agree with that statement. I think that, we're in an industry and there's a lot of excellent agents out there, but I think a common theme that you'll find with all of them, and maybe I'm making assumptions based on a utopian perception of our industry, but the ones that do well do lead with service, and their intent is service. It's not about making a sale. My goal is always to have a relationship, and I want to be a part of their lives and their kids' lives and their brothers and sisters and their parents' lives. So, for me, it's about making sure that I'm doing everything I can to make it so that they can't imagine wanting to go in a different direction. And
Brilliant.
If their friends are talking about real estate, that we have a relationship where where I am top of mind, or where my team is top of mind.
Right.
I would say that the best deals that I've done in real estate are the ones where I've told a client, hey, that's not a good deal, or you shouldn't offer that much, or, did you notice this issue or that issue, or the ones that I've talked people out of, I honestly think are the best deals that I've done. And if I was worried about a paycheck,
That would not be the case.
Sorry, my phone started ringing. I thought I turned all my notifications off for this.
It was just a client saying, hey, my cousin wants to buy a house. Where are you?
And I will return the message very promptly.
Brilliant. So when did you start your team? Like, how many years into the business was it before you started your team?
So with the goal being responsive and service-oriented and on top of things, but also being busy out of the gate, and being fortunate enough to start to see repeat and referral business, fairly quickly, I got to the point where I was kind of really battling with the guilt of not being able to reply to people as fast as I could. So I knew pretty early on that I needed help. So my first hire was, and I had a few administrators, but my first hire was an unlicensed assistant that could help me with the back office stuff so that I could focus on that. My first official team member was actually my administrator for about 2 years. So that's Sarah. She was Nicholson then. She's married now, Sarah Laporte, and she officially was licensed in 2016, and that was a game changer because it really allowed us to broaden our service level and not be late or not miss on something because there was two of us working to support, but with that, it created some pretty high growth. So around 2016 was officially when the team was formed, and and it's grown from there.
Superb. So before we kind of leave the early years, what would be 3 pieces of advice you'd give a new realtor coming in that would allow them to be successful the first year out?
Well, number one, real estate's a contact sport. So you got to get out there and you got to talk to people. And maybe your 80% is working your social media. Maybe it's going door knocking. Maybe it's doing open houses for other agents who have the listings and you're brand new. But honestly just asking for the business. From day one, if any of my colleagues in the local industry do end up hearing this podcast, they'll remember the times that I've said, hey, if you're ever too busy, I see you're really doing well, I would love to take care of the clients that you just can't get to. I'm always asking for business, not necessarily just to clients or just in general, but even to my fellow agents. And our team has been pretty fortunate with referrals from agents from both in market and out of market as a result of that. I think just making the contacts, having the conversations, and putting yourself out there. If you fail forward. I mean, you go to a listing appointment and you're brand new and you don't know exactly what you're doing, but you go as prepared as you possibly can, and then you analyze after and figure out where you were lacking, and then make sure that you improve on that for the next time. But if you're paralyzed by trying to be perfect, you won't even get out the door. So fail forward, do your best, and constantly try and evolve and learn.
Brilliant. So how many people in your team right now?
We are up to 13, I believe.
13, and how many agents are in that 13?
That would be 11.
Nice.
11 agents. We've got a couple coming on, but and we have a brand new agent that started with us in the last couple of weeks. So 4.
So very lean in terms of you've got agents and then you've got a couple of admin people to kind of make the whole magic happen in the back end. Yes.
Yeah. We that was actually a big adjustment for us because over the years we had basically an administrator, but our operations manager was a realtor, and we had a team meeting, and she either did the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. But at the team meeting, she's like, you know what we really need? We really need an operations manager to help sort of quarterback everything. Nice. We all just looked at her, and she fell into that role, and she's been doing an excellent job. Support is key.
First rule in the Army, you don't mention something like that because you're going to get volunteered.
That's right. But she's doing great with the role, and I think it's she's operating in her 80% now, being in that position.
Ah, brilliant. So you're just minding your own business, you're running your business, you got an admin person helping you, and then all of a sudden you're in charge of a team. So tell me some of the mistakes you made when you first started to lead a team, and then what were the lessons learned, and let's kind of examine that for a minute, then we'll go deeper into the team.
Sure. So I would say that taking on more, we want to attract people that we're not employees. We're essentially all partners. So we want to attract people that are independent, and needing guidance is totally good. But before we kind of figured out the hard way of putting in place onboarding systems, we added a few brand new agents to the team, and as much as I feel it's a massive benefit to go into an organization that collectively is sold well over 1,000 homes and has encountered many scenarios. Being able to take that collective 30 or 40 years of knowledge and then put it into bite-sized chunks for somebody who's brand new and
nice.
Doesn't necessarily know how to set up a website was something that we needed to learn from. So we had two great young guys that joined us in 2019.
Right.
A lot of our growth has been the last few years, but 2019 we had two that were green at the gills, and I found that it was a massive time investment to be coaching and mentoring somebody brand new, and it created some challenge, and I don't think that we delivered for them in a way that allowed them to grow as quickly as they wanted to. And one of them relocated up to Toronto. The other relocated decided to be a solo agent. We wish them well, but we learned a lot from that. And
nice.
So we've kind of been a little bit more specific and selective in our process of onboarding, and we're not actually looking for growth. We're looking for culture. We're looking for somebody that's going to come in and that's going to be, in line with our values, and we've got systems in place to offer them better support starting out.
So let's talk about culture, because I think for a leader, there's 3 main duties. First one is having a kick-ass, amazing vision of what's possible, and people say, I want to go on that journey. The second one is culture. How do you get people to their behaviors and their mindset kind of aligns with what you want to build? And the third one is long-term shareholder value. How do you make your organization more valuable? But the most important element is that middle piece, that culture piece. So how did you articulate your culture, the one you wanted, and how do you get people to align with it?
It's a great question. It's a challenging question, to be honest. I honestly feel like we've been very fortunate to just attract like-minded people. There's some things that we do as a team to, promote that camaraderie. We have our we have our regular meetings. We started a tradition in 2016 where the whole team goes away for a retreat once a year. We basically just spend time together, having some food, some drinks, going golfing. Last year we, did some climbing. The year before, we discovered one of our team members is deathly afraid of heights, and we did a ropes course in the trees. But once a year we have that we do to look forward
on the team. Nice.
Every Christmas we do awards, but we don't do the typical top sales or any of that. We look at the qualities of the individual and what they bring to kind of create this pattern. We try and come up with sort of a comedic but also poignant award for them to honor what they bring to our group, and it's really cool. I think when I think about our group, everyone is looking for how they can add value to everyone else.
Nice.
I don't think there's any takers on our team, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. So for a lot of agents that go from like being solo operator with an admin or two to all of a sudden they got a team, there is a learning curve, and some people do it well and some people do it badly. What advice would you give new team leaders in real estate that, here are just like you did for new agents, here are the 3 things you need to know to be an effective team leader?
Well, you have to always be responsible. So basically you have to be willing to have their back. So you have to know that the person you're bringing on is somebody that you would, go into the corner for at any given time. And not to say that we have a lot of those challenges, but they obviously come up. I mean, this is life and this is business. So being willing to step up for your team members, I think, is key. And if it's not somebody you're willing to step up for, then you can't expect them to step up for you. So that would be the first thing. Second, focus on, in my opinion, focus on getting the right people on the bus. There was a great book, actually the guy who...
Jim Collins?
Good to Great. The gentleman who suggests I get into this business actually gifted me a copy of that book. And,
nice.
And I thought that was such a fantastic read and so key, having the right people. We don't have a lot of churn. We don't have a lot of turnover. And I think it's because we're very, very slow in bringing people on. We also involve the group in the decision. As far as I'm concerned, every member of the team is a stakeholder. Every member of the team is a partner. And so if somebody's going to come in and share in our journey, we want to make sure that everybody's on board with that person. And then the other thing, I think, as a team lead, I think your obligation is to provide equal or better value to your team members than what they give back to you in terms of your whatever arrangement you have for splits. So we're constantly looking at how we can implement one more thing and perfect that one thing, make it a system, and then move on to the next thing. And each thing that we implement in our business, we do with intention of providing better value, better experience, better support to our team members.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So going back to that book, Good to Great from Jim Collins, really what he was talking about was the beliefs that a level 5 CEO has versus another CEO, where level 5 CEOs, it's all about us versus my ego and my accomplishments. Yeah, it's about building the right culture. So for individual agents, they have beliefs around real estate, sales, money, self-worth. Most of those sit in their unconscious. And sometimes you have agents that could be doing so much better, and you can see their capability, but sometimes they can't see it themselves. How do you help them cross that chasm from their potential to their overcoming their fears? Can you think of a specific example? Don't name names, but say, because that gives us a truer answer. Oh, yeah, I was helping an agent, da 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 da. So, do you have one of those you can share with us?
So, without getting into specifics of who, there's an individual on our team who has a tremendous amount of experience, tremendous amount of knowledge, but seemed almost like there was a little bit, not as much of a rudder on the ship.
Right.
And so, what we did was we actually created a role for them, which is, and I guess the more specific I am, the more people will know exactly what I'm talking about.
So kind of pause there. So you created a role. So it's almost like that Jim Collins did the right person on the bus, but they were on the wrong seat. So you helped them get to the right seat.
That's exactly the case. So we needed to put them in a position where their talents were being used and appreciated, and he was able to see a difference. And I would honestly say that that's probably the same thing that we did with our operations manager, because she was the one who brought it up. But ultimately, she's fallen into that role and done such a fantastic job, and has really thrived in that role. So I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. You got to have the right people there, but then you have to have the right people there doing the right things.
Absolutely.
I'm not the guy that's gonna sit in front of Canva and design our social media graphic for the latest listing. I'm just not that guy. It'll take me 4 hours to do,
and it'll be ugly,
and I'm not going to enjoy it. There's people in our group that are absolutely exceptional with the graphic design, and they love it, and they feel good doing it, and they feel good about their contribution. So yeah, I think creating a space where people can contribute in the way that they're best able to contribute, so that they can have that feeling of worth and value. Yeah, I think that's absolutely key.
Nice. So you're part of Keller Williams, right?
Yes.
So when I look at different teams in Keller Williams, which is a great organization, Keller Williams has a culture.
Yes.
And then the individual teams have their flavor of their culture, and they don't line 100% alignment, but they're not 180 degrees apart. So they're similar in a similar direction. So how do you navigate that, where you kind of keep the look and feel of the Verge team as you want it, that is highly successful, and you don't lose, but you don't get out of alignment of Keller Williams?
Well, Keller's actually really a great company in terms of their requirements for branding, and it's a platform that's really built for agents by agents, and so we've never felt that we had to do things that took away from our vision.
Right.
The support is there. We've got an excellent broker of record, and obviously some titans in the industry that we can look up to and call for advice and plug into their training.
Nice.
But there's no specific requirement other than the RICO requirements, which is the Real Estate Council of Ontario, for branding as Keller. So essentially, they've given us an opportunity to run our business within their business and run it the way that we want, with the vision and direction that we decide. But there's such great vision and direction and such great support in the organization that
absolutely
they've provided us with some good opportunities to grow and good guidance, and we've implemented a lot that we've taken on from coming over here into how we run our business. But we're not your typical Keller team. We do things a little bit differently, and that's probably not a conversation to get into on the podcast.
But you have to be authentic, and I really appreciate that. You have to be who you are, because then you own it. And Keller Williams obviously is a great organization that's incredibly successful. So, Isaac, before we part company, is there a mind hack or a technique that you use to be more productive or be happier or be a better leader? What's one piece of advice you could share with our listeners and viewers that would help them become awesomer?
So for me, it's living by a schedule, to be honest. I set big goals for myself every year, and I put them right into my calendar, and I live by that calendar. So I try and get the hardest thing out of the way, hardest thing in my day out of the way at the beginning of the day, so that the rest of the day is a success and a win and easy to accomplish. But I think mindset's a discipline, and I think if you're not consistently investing in your mind, whether it's by reading or plugging into training or listening to great podcasts, and actively making the decision to amend your thinking and to be focused on what you want as opposed to what you don't have. I think that's the biggest thing. Just a quick story about the mentor who who helped me get started in the beginning. Real estate's not a cheap business to be in, and there's some cost, and as soon as you start thinking about money, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be able to make money because you're not focused on service. And so I was really stuck in my head about, oh, geez, I've got this expense, I've got this expense, I've got this expense. And he gave me a little mantra that I ended up programming as my alarm clock that I woke up to every morning.
Which is?
Which was my income exceeds my expenses. So I woke up to telling myself that. So I was not focused on the expense, but I was focused on the opportunity and focused on, what was possible. And I think that it's such a funny mind hack, but I think that was a huge thing for me. And it was, how does the business grow? The rest sort of falls into place. So as a result now, we decide to take something on as a team. Obviously we're mindful of our budget. We're mindful of what we spend in operating our business. But we're not looking at those expenses as a barrier. If we choose to implement something, we implement it. And we know that if we do things methodically and we track, that the return on it should exceed the investment into it. So
Brilliant.
Income exceeds my expenses.
Isaac, thank you so much for being on the program. I learned a lot. I took some notes, and thanks so much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.